Have you noticed this? And do you think that there actually is a scarier threat of violence and call to action with violence? You can comment below, coming from the left compared to Donald Trump, or is it just a matter of making them play by their own rules? I think it's a little of column A, a little column B. So let me refresh your memory for those who haven't tuned in to ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN at any given minute because they run this. They have this on a loop like a morphine drip. What happened back then, if you remember, when President Trump told all of his supporters to fight like hell, January 6th.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Now, keep in mind, that is what they consider to be a call to violence, and we'll get to the articles of impeachment in a second. But before we get to what they did to him, and is what they want to do to you, which we're seeing now with January 6th, that retired couple just had their home invaded. It was at least pretty clear Donald Trump went out of his way to make clear what he was calling people to do. This is what the media doesn't show you.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
So two things there. Can we all agree that was pretty clear that he was saying peacefully?
Yeah.
Well, it was just because he said it.
Yes. Okay.
Well, and he said with your words. He didn't say with your fists
Right.
or with your breaking.
And you know what else? Do you know what he also didn't do? Even with the figurative call to fight, who was he calling people to fight? Republicans. His own party. He said, call for, to see if they will be strong on elect. He didn't say, go over there and fight like hell to the nearest trans amoeba you could find.
Drop a house on them.
Right. I want to see their stockings curl up from under the state capitol. And you were there, and you. They say a lot of people were there. No, he said peacefully, patriotically, make your voices heard and see if the Republicans will stand up for you. He was calling his own party to the mat.
Yeah.
So even if you want to say it was a call to violence, which it wasn't, because you have ears, again, all references available at loudwithcrowder.com, he was very clearly calling people to hold their own party accountable, not to commit even figurative acts of violence against political opposition in the street. I think it's a very important delineation. So let's look at the articles of impeachment that were filed against him because of that. Keep in mind, this has never been done before. They impeached a sitting president twice. Twice.
Yes.
That's for one of them. These were the articles. He willfully made statements that, in context, encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless actions at the Capitol, such as, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. So I love how they say in context and then don't provide the context.
Exactly right. They're known for that. And by the way, you know what he said for them to do? Just return the electors to the states until we figure this out. That was it. He wasn't saying install me as dictator. He wasn't saying that Joe Biden couldn't have possibly won the election. There's no way in the world. He was very adamant that he thought he won.
Right.
But he's saying return it to the states until we sort this out. That was his call.
Yep.
That's insurrection.
And this was before a lot of the BS lawsuits. And by the way, we've been at the front of this.
It's crazy.
There was enough with the changing of the voting laws that violated the Pennsylvania Constitution. There was enough with double voting with ballots that weren't marked properly. There was enough with people who were voting in multiple municipalities that you didn't have to say it was about Dominion voting machines. No. There was already enough that had happened at that point. This is before some people who were grifting got absurd and made unfounded claims.
Now, guys, the double ballots were marked properly.
Yes. They were marked
for
2X.
Joe Biden.
Yes.
Yeah. So they impeached him there, saying in context, disregarding the context of peacefully. And they claimed, of course, that it was, which will then later bring us here to what we're having now, but the left claimed back then it was akin to incitement, sedition.
This mob was in good part President Trump's doing, incited by his words, his lies.
Wrong.
This violence, in good part,
Looking
his
more and more like the Muppet
responsibility,
heckler.
his everlasting shame.
And he clearly has indicated that over and over again. And by inciting sedition, as he did yesterday.
And then yesterday,
even her mask is made of pills.
A culmination of attack on our institutions of democracy. This time, the Congress itself, inciting a mob to attack the Capitol.
Okay. You guys make your own judgments there. By the way, hey, they're in the control room. Remember to pull out that old Muppet heckler sketch that we have as a recurring thing. We never ended up doing that or incorporating it.
Oh.
So more tweets here. Elizabeth Warren tweeted, Donald Trump incited an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The House has fulfilled its constitutional duty by delivering an article of impeachment to the Senate. I don't know why she wrote that.
That's odd. She makes a lot of money off her casino, I hear.
Yes, she does. Yeah, the jackpots, by the way, don't pay out if it's she's renovating her apartment.
That's what I've heard.
AOC.
Gorgeous totems on the way in.
Right. AOC made these comments. To my GOP colleagues, know that this president incited an insurrection against and incited his mob to find, harm, and possibly kill not just Democrats, but you too. Didn't mention Democrats there, by the way. He talked about people holding Republicans accountable. He will allow opportunities of physical harm against you. If you aren't sufficiently loyal to him, remove him. Wait, hold on a second. Allow opportunities of physical harm against you. Do you mean like catch and release? Do you mean like violent offenders in New York and these cities who are it's just a revolving door like Elf of rapists?
Yeah, I think that's true. Do you want to know who you want to blame for this? If you're pissed off that there weren't enough police officers, National Guard, anybody else, Nancy Pelosi would be a great place to start. She had the power. President Trump approved her getting whatever she needed to defend the Capitol.
Well, she can't be blamed for what she didn't do while she was down the K-hole.
By the same logic, AOC is saying, hey, he will incite a mob. He didn't incite a mob. We have the context for that. If you want to blame somebody for being in danger that day, blame the people who didn't have enough people there to protect you, because it looked like politically they knew something was going to happen, and it played better for them to let it happen than to have.
By the way, you got the K-hole reference, and he didn't.
I didn't.
Oh, of course I did. I bet you her biography is going to read the same as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I bet you
was on my way to D.C. with uppers, downers, laughers, screamers.
Except I bet you her biography will, if it's an autobiography, will be about as legible as Stevie Wonder's autobiography. I don't know what to do with this.
She a doctor writing like that? Jeez.
So that's them saying that Donald Trump was calling people to violence. You just saw those clips. That brings us to now, where it doesn't only look like they're taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook. I would argue, and I want to hear from you, because you can both sides this thing, that it's far worse.
It's a sad day for the country, in my view. But it doesn't mean the fight's over.
The Supreme Court does not get the last word, the people do. And we are going to fight back.
While Republicans seek to punish and control women, Democrats will keep fighting ferociously to enshrine Roe v. Wade
Let's fight
into law of the land.
We will be out by the thousands. We will be out by the millions. We're going to make sure we fight for the right to
Can't say fight.
our bodies.
Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
Right back there. We're just so tough over here.
This is going to have massive impact. And so we are fighting like hell.
Is going to take every single thing we've got. It's not going to be solved with an election. It's going to be solved with a fight of a lifetime.
So let's contrast that with, let's see if Republicans are strong on election integrity versus this is not going to be solved by an election. It's going to be solved by the fight of a lifetime. Now, granted, some of those clips, if you take them and they say, and something, by the way, we mean politically. But again, if you look at the rhetoric and you look at the results and they use the words, literally, Whitmer, fight like hell. And many of them say fight and take to the streets, not peacefully in single file fashion, using the buddy system, march over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard to your own party. They're saying take to the streets and fight like hell because they want to legislate your wombs. Hey, are any of these people going to be held accountable? Any of them going to be? Whitmer, definitely. Whitmer has to be banned from Twitter at least. Right, Dorsey? At the very least. And by the way, that's why you can, right now we're wearing these. Dave has one. Gerald has one. Yeah. You can buy the Fight Like Hell shirts at CrowderShop.com because I don't shy away from it. I have no problem with them saying fight. so long as you allow us to say fight. And right now, when I say fight like hell, I mean fight back. There are people with makeshift flamethrowers. We showed you yesterday.
Yeah.
At the cops. Think of this for a second. Remember every movie that we used to see, a mobster movie, or even if you go back to Breaking Bad, I was like, you shot a cop, you effing moron. You have any idea of the heat that's good? Now you have these Antifa people flame-throwing police officers. Mm-hmm. They're worse than the mob.
Yeah.
I don't know why cops are still the good guys in movies.
Right.
Even when I watch them, I'm like, aren't you guys the ones, pushing the narrative that they're all bad?
I know.
Oh, yeah. Well, by the way, I have a question. How is it not trying to destroy democracy by saying we'll just defy the Supreme Court? Don't you know that that's why it's there? It's there to solve the problems that the United States has that can't be solved any other way. That's why you go through this process to get the final word on an issue.
Right.
That's the Supreme Court's job. If you say defy the Supreme Court, what's the next step? The natural next step is that you defy the law in that state, and then the Supreme Court has a ruling that is the law of the land, and the federal government has to come enforce. How do they come and enforce that law? They tend to come armed. If you're telling people to defy that because you don't like the ruling, not that it's taking away a Second Amendment right or the First Amendment right or changing democracy, you just don't like what they've done, you're calling people to eventually be violent against that. That's
of course
the only natural
Of course
step.
they are. And by the way, AOC, her political solution was executive orders.
Yeah.
Like, these people have too much power. They're unelected. They're lifetime appointments. So executive order that. Hold on a second. Let me get this straight. Roe v. Wade giving the states the authority, giving the elected representatives in each state the authority to create their own abortion laws. By the way, you can have the most radically pro-abortion laws in California and Colorado if you want. That is anti-democracy. But having a president sign an executive order to supersede the Supreme Court, who is supposed to be autonomous, is not? I'm a little murky on the rules. Maybe you guys can clarify below. You can comment for me, because I don't know. It's hard for me to follow. It's about as hard for me to follow as AOC's left eye.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.